right, so little Erec Rex for you coming um, with my Packer hat. It's going to become, just so you know, this is going to become what hat is Mrs. Holzman wearing today? Because she didn't wash her hair. So this is a, don't judge. I hear you laughing virtually. Um, so this is another hat of mine, another favorite. This is my Packer hat. This is the third video posting of Erec Rex. So this actually will start on page 214. So if you have not watched um, the second video, then make sure you do that. Otherwise, it's just not going to make sense. So page 214, I'll try to read for approximately 15 minutes is what YouTube is liking. So I'll please them. All right, it seemed Eric would never find Lerna. Do you have a place we can stay tonight? After much chattering and nodding, a man spoke up. We are the Hulder people. Welcome to our little village. It seems Tomty and Niece, our gnomes, brought you here, so we owe you a good meal and a place to sleep. At this mention of this, Tomty and Niece hung their heads in shame. Are you sure you're not with the trolls? After Eric, Jam, and Henry reassured the gnomes that they were not, the Hulder folk brought them steaming plates of delicious meat, scrambled eggs, cheeses, and breads. Eric was so hungry he practically inhaled the food, making a point of not asking what it was. Your tails look funny, Eric bit his tongue. There went the annoying archives of Alithia again, real smooth. The women giggled, pointing at him and whispering he was sure about his lack of a tail. Henry had just asked for his fourth helping when he growled, This is Erec Rex with us here. You all should know you're helping a very important person. At once the Hulder women shrieked, running away, hands over their mouths. One dropped an entire platter of cooked apples on Jam's head. The men stepped back, looking pale. One asked, voice trembling, What are you doing here? We can't tell you anything. We don't know anything. Just go away and leave us alone. Eric and Jam looked at each other. Well, that was interesting. If ever there had been any reason to think these strangers were hiding a secret from him, this was it. It seemed about the most suspicious thing he had heard anyone say, and Eric was through with secrets. You know who I am? The Hulder men and women who had gathered back around him, staring in curiosity, all shook their heads. Oh, no. They looked like they were trying so hard to convince Eric that he almost laughed. But you just went nuts when you heard my name. You must have heard of me somewhere. Oh, no, never. Nope, not at all. No, wrong. Yeah, right. Eric glanced at Jam. What secrets are you keeping from me then? He asked them. Do they have to do with the monsters in Lerna? The cat-tailed people looked at each other in confusion and shrugged. Monsters and where? Eric frowned. Do your secrets have to do with who my father is? No, a man waved him off. We don't have any secrets, okay? We'll give you a place to sleep tonight, then you'd better leave us alone. Eric was not satisfied. I want to know any secrets you have about me now. I'm tired of people keeping everything from me. Nobody seemed to be paying any attention to him. Do you know where my brother and sister are? The Hulder folk shrugged and walked away. Jam cleared his throat. Does your secret have to do with the trolls? The tailed people reacted with shock, shaking their heads in frenzy. Absolutely not. Trolls never heard of them. Jem winked at Eric. Methinks they doth protest too much. He tilted his head. So the trolls are planning something then? Oh, no. The Hulder people waved their hands in front of them, wildly shaking their heads. Absolutely not. I see. Jam pondered a moment. Does this something have to do with Eric's second quest? The men and women tilted their heads as if they had no idea what Jam was talking about. He murmured to Eric. I guess not. He squinted, eyes roaming over the small crowd. Have the trolls threatened you then if you told their secret? Again, there was an uproar of denial, making it clear that they had indeed been very much threatened. Although this seemed like a way to get answers out of the Hulder folk, it took a long time. The villagers seemed to sense that they were revealing too much, and they began to disappear into the buildings. One of the Hulder men offered Eric a bed in his house that evening, and another offered one to Jam. Somebody told Henry he was welcome to sleep in the barn with the gnomes. Eric followed a Hulder couple to a small hut made of packed earth and straw. They pointed him to a tiny room with a bale of straw for a bed. Erec was frustrated. What were they hiding? How could he find out? Then he remembered something that he was carrying. He took the Archives of Alithia out of his pocket and stumbled, letting the scroll slip through his fingers onto the floor. The holder man picked it up and held it out to Erec, but he did not take it back. What is the secret you're keeping from the trolls? For the trolls. The man crossed his arms. The secret is that they're hiding the baby dragons in Trollbottom Cave in Jotner. Biscania is going to kill them all 2 days after the monster bash in Lerna. The Halder woman looked at her husband in shock, mouth hanging open. Kaja, what are you saying? She put her hand to her forehead. Kaja looked to be in as much shock as she was in. I don't know, I just told him. Erec asked, why is Biscania going to kill the baby dragons? Kaja straightened and said, he's harvesting their eyes so he can have many dragon eyes to make himself more powerful. Their eyes were too young to work right at first, but now they're ready. He looked sick and started to walk in circles. Why am I saying this to you? You must have a spell on me. Erec looked sternly at him, as if he had indeed worked some kind of spell. And why did you want to hide this from me in particular? You are Erec Rex. Kaja looked defeated, as if it was not worth even trying to resist. You are setting things right. You saved King Piter from Biscania. You will probably save the dragons too. Don't you want the baby dragons saved? Kaja's wife piped up, seeming now resigned to telling Erec everything. Of course we want the dragons to be saved. We're afraid, that's all. The trolls come here and take our food and treasures. They tell us things and then threaten us if we spill their secrets. If you race off to save the dragons and the trolls find out we told this to you. Don't worry, Erec said. Nobody will find out that you told me. I think I'd better go now. The man nodded, handing Erec back the scroll, completely unaware of its power over him. This is called Trollbottom Cave, chapter 17. There's a lovely picture of Trollbottom Cave. Interesting. Okay. Baylor and Damon Stain walked through the thick oak doors of the inner sanctum of the greenhouse. Baylor pushed against one of the doors as he went in. As he thought, it would not budge. Only Biscania, the Shadow Prince, could open and shut them. The doors slammed shut behind them. The room was dimly lit and twinkled like a firefly convention. Hundreds of candles around the room threw glittery light on the gems encrusting the walls and the gold furniture. Biscania enjoyed sparkling images, fine artwork, clean lines, and modern design. Baylor guessed that was because he had so many eyes. No, Baylor. A hoarse whisper echoed from behind a large desk. It's because I'm old. I'm sick and tired of looking at ugly junk and pathetic people. You'll understand someday. The only things worth anything are beauty and power. A collection of eyes glowed behind the sculpted desk. Whoop, that's my phone going off. Hang on. As Baylor walked closer with his brother, he saw that the eyes belonged to Biscania. He sat in a velvet chair, eyes covering his face, neck, arms, and hands. Slowly, the eyes melted into his flesh. They left deep pits, making him look like a sea of holes. Then, skin stretched over them, swallowing them, until his face became a flat expanse of skin. Looking at him made Baylor gulp. A sharp bent nose erupted, followed by a deep gash that formed thin lips and twisted smile. His black cloak fell over his arms. One steely, sunken blue eye with dark bags under it popped out, but only a deep dent sat where its matching one should have been. Biscania had removed his own eye to make room for Erec Rex's dragon eye, but instead Erec Rex had managed to get away with it, unforgivable, but it would soon be corrected. Baylor much preferred to look at the Shadow Prince as he was now, silver-gray hair flowing into a sharp widow's peak, sneer lines around his mouth. Beside him stood President Washington Inkle, so thin and trembling that it seemed he could be blown over like a leaf. He was tall and had a few gray hairs scattered over his bald head. His lips bore bright red scabs from his habit of biting them. Baylor crossed his arms in front of him. He was important, chosen by the best, raised to the top. It was only a matter of time before he would be at Biscania's side. Biscania had assured him of that. Then, before long, he would be Biscania's boss. Nobody would keep him down. He was glad that the men posing as Danny and Sammy Rex were discovered. Now he had the chance to prove his worth, do an important job. Biscania's voice was cold. You know, Baylor, this will be much easier once you and Damon give me one of your eyes. Then I can see what you see and know what you are doing, wherever you are. If you are going to spy on Erec Rex for me, I will need to look through your eye whenever I want. Baylor grabbed his brother's arm in fear but quickly let go, hoping Biscania didn't sense his fear. Don't be afraid, boy. It won't hurt. For long, that is. Your pain is my gain, right? His cackle made Baylor's stomach rise into his throat. Damon swung around to look at Baylor. Should I whack him? Shut up, Baylor interrupted. He looked at Biscania and the president. Sorry, he's an idiot. We know, Biscania purred, but luckily for him, a precious idiot. Now tell me about Erec Rex. At once he bared sharp teeth, and his eye darkened with anger. I don't like what I see in your mind. Out with it! Baylor found himself shaking. Erec Rex is missing. He disappeared from Alpine without a trace. Bethany Cleary is still at the castle, though. Who was this jerk to make him feel stupid like this? He had done a good job. It wasn't his fault that the stupid kid was gone. Biscania eyed him silently. He stroked his silver hair in his hand. A coal center showed through the hole that was its pupil. Suddenly, pain crushed Baylor's body. A great force shoved him onto his knees, and then threw his face onto the floor, arms outstretched in front of him in a deep bow toward the Shadow Prince. Damon bowed on the floor at his side. Biscania tittered, looking at President Inkle until he joined him with an uncertain giggle. Soon they both roared in laughter. You, he snorted at Baylor, actually think you are worthy of my presence? He sniffed a cold eye staring through his mirth. You flubbed the simplest task I could have given you, and I'm training you fools with your lamb of a brother to follow in my footsteps? I need to know where Erec Rex is. We no longer need him alive. I'll deal with the fates myself if I have to, so you can draw the next quest from Ayleswell's yourselves. He sneered at President Inkle. Find Erec Rex. Do whatever it takes. He is an obstacle. It's time before he gets more power from that amulet of virtues. Plus, he has my dragon eye, and I want it back. Eric found Jam after pounding on a few doors. We have to get Henry. I just found out what the Halder's secret is. Jam rubbed his eyes. His hair was beginning to perk back to life after some of the wax had rubbed off. Eric thought he looked much better. But, young sir, what can we do about it? We don't even know where Lena is. It certainly is nowhere in sight. True, Jam, but I know exactly who needs to know this information right now. Henry was asleep in his stable. They woke him, which was no small task, and involving throwing rocks into his side and jumping on his stomach. Henry, the dragon hatchlings are in danger. We have to run back into dragon country and fast. Henry jumped up and helped Eric and Jam back onto his shoulders. Then Henry ran through the night, branches whizzing by and occasionally scraping Eric when he wasn't careful. They passed the clown village and continued deep into the wilds. I hope this is the same way we came. Eric heard loud wolf-like howls that did not seem too far off. He noticed the moon was full and had a bad feeling that the cries might not be from wolves. At least Wolf Boy would be safe, locked up in his padded doghouse tonight. He thanked Bethany in his head for arranging that. The night became blacker as Henry ran nonstop. He was excellent at tracking, as he had said, and was following their old path with ease. As they ran near rocky cliffs and outcroppings, Eric squinted, looking for Aqua's cave. I think that's it. He pointed at a dark cave on a hill. Let's check it out. They tiptoed up to the dark cave entrance. Eric could hear a low rumble from inside. Aquas! He called into the blackness. There was no answer. He tiptoed in, chills running through his shoulders. It seemed like ages ago that he had been here, getting the very eye that he was looking through right now, with Aqua's own eye attached to its back. Get back here, Henry quietly growled, grabbing his shoulder. What are you thinking? That thing will slash you head to toe and ask questions later. He knows me. It's okay. Eric hoped Aquas remembered him. It seemed he would, after guarding a dragon eye for 10 years for him. But he also remembered Aquas had evened the score with his father by giving Eric his eye. Maybe now there would be no reason for him to treat Eric differently than anyone else. Well, the lives of the baby dragons of otherness were on the line. Eric had to warn him. Jam stepped into the cave behind Eric, but Eric turned and held his hand up. No, Jam, you better stay out here with Henry. Aquas doesn't know you, and I'm not sure what he would do to you. Plus, if there are more of us, it might startle him, make him attack or something. Young sir, Jam whispered, please let me go in for you. I will explain to, the dragon that I'm with you and tell him about the hatchlings. There's no need for young sir to risk his life. Really, Jam, it's okay. Thanks for offering to put your life in danger for me. But he doesn't know you, And he has all these rules about humans. You don't have a chance in there. Henry did not need any persuading to stay back with Jam. It was dark in the narrow passage that led from the cave entrance, much darker now at night than it had been before. The rumbling noise sounded like a snore. It grew louder as Eric felt his way down the rocky tunnel toward the huge cavern. Then the rumble stopped. A dead silence filled the cave. The dragon must have sensed his presence and woken. Eric was struck with fear. What if this was no longer Aqua's cave? What if he remembered it wrong? What if another dragon lived here now? One that would not care who he was or what he had to say. He remembered Aquas asking if he preferred to be lightly toasted or deep fried, saying the humans were good snacks. He closed his eyes and steadied his breath. The dragon hatchlings were in danger. Biscania was going to kill them all at once and take out all their eyes for his own. He couldn't imagine how much power Biscania would have then. Eric still didn't know how to fully use his own dragon eye, but he was sure Biscania would know exactly what to do with his. He took another step. This time he had no magic light, and there was no light streaming from inside of the cavern. The dragon could be waiting for him at the end of the tunnel, mouth open. A stream of fire raced toward him in the tunnel. Eric dodged out of the way, pressed against the cave wall. A snort of steam filled the passage, making it so hot Eric broke out in a sweat. Fire raced through the tunnel again, this time singeing Eric's sleeve. "Aquas?" Eric's voice trembled. "I see somebody knows my name. Do you think that will save you from your fate, foolish human?" "It's me, Erec Rex." Eric held his breath, praying Aquas would remember him and that it would matter. He thought about what happened with Patchouli. He had looked at her with his dragon eye, and they could read right into each other's thoughts. If only he could get a cloudy thought now, he could look at Aquas. "Walk closer to me," the dragon said. Eric thought it sounded like Aqua's voice. He hoped it was. "I want to see you." Shaking, Eric walked up the tunnel. A light began to fill the huge gem-encrusted cavern, falling on countless tables of treasure and magical goods. Enormous stacks of gold bricks lined the round room. On display was an amazing collection of suits of armor and weaponry that had obviously been taken from humans who had overestimated their own abilities. Aquas must have peeled off all this gear like the shells of peanuts before being eating the hapless humans who wore it. And there was Aquas. There was no mistaking him. Gigantic muscles rippled under scales that shone a deep red and purple-black hue. Blood-red spines cascaded down his back to the tip of his tail, and huge black wings rippled beside him, unfolding slightly and closing over him again. His immensity and sheer power took Eric's breath away. The dragon tilted his head. "Erec Rex? My, this is a surprise, and waking me up in the middle of the night, too. I don't suppose you think you're free to come marauding through my treasure just because we have met once." Eric shook his head, tried to force words out before it was too late. No, I came to warn you. I found out where the baby dragons are." Do come in, Eric." Aquas backed into his cave and sat by the same onyx table where Eric had once played chess with him. "Please have a seat. I promise I won't harm you until I hear you out. Then we will see what riddle I will give you. An easy one or a hard one?" Eric remembered Aquas' rule about giving a riddle to humans that entered his cave. Only if they could solve them would he spare their lives. And usually the riddles were too hard to answer. He took a breath. "I've been trying to find my brother and sister. They've been kidnapped. I think they're in Lerna and will be fed to the monsters unless I get there fast enough to save them." Aquas nodded. "So a cyclops has been helping me, and we were looking for Lerna, but we found this little village. The people there knew a secret, and I tricked it out of them with magic. They told me where the baby dragons are. I found out Biscania captured them to harvest their eyes. The hatchlings are old enough now, and their eyes are ready for him to take. The trolls are hiding the hatchlings for him in Trollbottom Cave, in Jotner. Biscania is going to kill them all 2 days after the monster bash in Lerna. We ran as fast as we could to tell you." Aquas breathed out steam in silence. "Erec Rex, you are like your father." They sat a while looking at each other. "Thank you. Unfortunately, most of the dragons are out on hunt, looking for signs of the hatchlings. I would be out too, but I haven't been well. There's likely nobody here but me, and we don't have the time to hunt other dragons down. We should act now. Am I correct to assume you will help me?" "I will," Eric's mind spun. He wasn't sure what good he could do. He wasn't nearly as powerful as Aquas, but then he thought about Danny and Sammy. "If I help you free the baby dragons tonight, will you help me find the monsters in Lerna tomorrow?" It would be my pleasure. Steam poured from his nostrils. All right, we're going to stop there. It's just about time. So that brings us to page 225. Again, this is the third video. So if you have not watched the second Erec Rex video, then please make sure you do that. Have a lovely evening. Well, it's evening by me, so have a good morning, depending when you're watching this. Have a good afternoon or a good evening. All right, take care, guys.